Okay, part 2. The whiteboard. Dun dun dun. Okay, so anyways, there's just a couple concepts I want to cover that help me. That help me. I don't know. That help me. It's a lot of it is I'm still learning about actually. Sacred geometry. The yeah, that kind of stuff really resonates with me. Like the golden ratio, like the, I don't know, I guess, should I explain? I'm not going to go too into detail, but there's something called fractalization, and so basically fractals are like this mathematical concept. Well, it's not a concept, it's a thing, but basically it's a pattern that never repeats, but it looks the same no matter how far you zoom out or zoom in, basically. And that's what the universe is. It's a fractal. We can see it just by looking at the stars and looking in our brain with like microscopes. You see the same structures at the mass scale, the micro scale. So that's the concept of the macrocosm versus the microcosm, which as I've come back to reading spiritual texts, after this period of atheism, separation from God, back to God, I've been rereading all the stuff like the Bible. Hey Bruce, you gonna help? Okay. So it's as above, so below, as it says in the Bible. That's what the concept. It's the fractal. That's all it is. So fractals can exist in 2D. The most famous one, I think it's called the Riemann sequence, but it looks kind of like this, and it's like, and then blah blah blah. But you can zoom in or out like any of these circles, and it looks the same basically, even though it's not. It's a pattern, and you can derive the rest of it from part of it, but it looks the same no matter how far you zoom in or out. To us, as humans. That's 2D though. There's 3D fractals too, which do that, and they may not look like a fractal from one angle, but you flip it around and it will look like you can definitely see it's a fractal from another angle. So we're up to 3 dimensions of fractals. 4-dimensional fractals are that's what we live in, or that's how we see our sight sees 2 dimensions or 3 dimensions. So we can see a 3-dimensional fractal. We experience a 4-dimensional fractal because we experience time, which is another dimension that we experience in a very unique way. God's perspective sees the whole thing. He sees it. So that's what it means when people say creation is complete. It's an object that exists. We can't understand that. We can't. It doesn't make sense to us. But creation is complete. It's an object that exists in, I'm sure, way more than 4 dimensions, but that's all we get here. You can get into more dimensions here by going inside, but through meditation and stuff. But it's not. Your everyday life is 3D, 4D, basically, somewhere like that. So, anyways, I don't know where to start. So there's fractals. Fractals are in everything in nature. It's, like I said, the first example was if you Google large scale structure of the universe, it looks exactly like our fucking brain, like our neuro whatever, a map of our. It's an uncanny resemblance. So if we don't live inside a giant brain, I don't know what. But the problem, evil. So good and evil is one of the main the best arguments against the existence of God. The fact that evil exists seems to be an indication that either God is not all good, or that he is not all powerful, or what, or he's not all knowing. So it could, maybe that is true. Maybe God is all powerful, and all good, but he doesn't know everything. But that contradicts that definition of God. So that wouldn't be God then. But one of the main arguments, or refutals of that, is to say that God knew that the best possible universe would be to give people free will, but then if you have free will, then you will have evil, and that's what I personally believe. But it's still really, really hard to justify some of the evil in the world, like children who are victims of genocide, like in Gaza. Can you say that? Yeah, you can say Gaza, right? I can say that, but I can't see the P word because then I'm a... But anyways, I don't want my video to get taken off of YouTube for saying a word that gets me tagged as a terrorist, which is, I'm not going to get into it, the politics, but anyways, killing children dying, innocent beings suffering and dying when they clearly have not done anything wrong, is, they don't deserve it. So how can you justify that alongside the idea of an all-good God? So it's very difficult. That's where the idea of karma comes in a lot of religions. They say, well, those kids, they would probably say, those kids had karma, bad karma from another life. I don't think that's a good answer, but I do think it's closer to the truth. I think we chose to be here. I think if you're on this planet, I think there are new souls. I do think there are new souls, but I do think that some of us have been around for a while, have very old souls, and so I think it's more like this. So I think that there's an upwards trajectory of the universe, and, well, I know there is, but you don't have to believe me, but it's more like this, or a combination of the two. So this is a sine wave. And if you know a sine wave, it just goes like this. It's like a wave. It's a wave. It goes up and down. So you can't know anything that you know is unknowable without knowing the opposite of it. Which, for instance, if everything was always good, you would never know that it was good. It wouldn't make any sense to you to say everything is good, because everything would just be good. It's it's the analogy of a fish in water. Fish don't know what water is because that's all they know. Some fish jump out of water, but don't worry about those fish. They're crazy. But yeah, fish in water, like they don't understand they wouldn't understand the concept of water until taken out of water. So for a being to understand how good is, it has to experience bad. For it to experience something, it has to balance. Which, if you believe, like I said, that the universe is a complete object, then good and evil are one thing. They're part of a continuum. They're not separate. So you could have good, evil, and they're all going up and down, because I'm good, I'm evil, now I know what good is, evil is, upward trajectory. And then evil doing the same thing, balancing it out. There's always balance. This is, okay, so this is, the blue is divine masculine, the red is divine feminine. So they can maybe exist together like this, almost like a double helix, doing this upward trajectory thing. the main thing is, when you graph this, it's a circle. You know, the values go up, down, so it's up, down, up, down, up, down. So it just keeps going in circles. Which relates to the motion of the planetary bodies. And, but if you think about the motion of a circle like this, it's actually a spiral. So, because the motion of the planets, yes, it looks like a circle to us, but for instance, the moon is going around, or the moon is going around the Earth. The Earth is going around the sun. Well, let's actually use the Earth around the sun. Earth's going around the sun in a circle, but the sun is also going around a giant thing too. So as the Earth goes around the sun, it's actually going in a spiral. It's not just going in circles. The circle is moving. So, this circle is a spiral. It's because of the dimension of time. Same thing with this. This is actually a spiral because if you looked at it, if you turned it like this, it's hard to explain, but it's also a spiral going upwards. So that kind of comes back. Well, let me also say it. I guess I want to talk about entropy too, and the heat death of the universe. So this ascension is working towards a union with God. So this is frequency, right? That's a term we use a lot now in spirituality, especially online, or more New Age spirituality. Higher frequency. So God is the infinite frequency, basically. So God is, what we're moving towards. We want to get back to God. So as I said before, we wouldn't know God if we weren't separate from Him. It wouldn't make any sense if we never separated from God. We wouldn't understand what God is. Everything would just be good all the time, and we'd be in bliss, but we'd never even consider, what we're in. So we'd be separate from God to understand God, and also that we are God, which you can think about that. It's a concept. I'm not saying that you could just go jump out the window and fly, but I am saying that our core essence is God. We create, we're creators. As your frequency increases, though, you can eventually jump out the window and fly, but I'm not there yet personally, but there are probably beings on this earth that are, they don't make that known, but anyways, you can look into a lot of the spiritual masters of the past. Mystics have been able to do supernatural things, well documented. Not just Jesus, there's been all kinds of Eastern religion, Hinduism, there's been all kinds of miracle workers, people who can float, and even in Christianity, there's been saints who have been described as literally floating, like off the ground. And it's just kind of, most of them are hereticized by the church and either killed or, ostracized, because that's goes against the whole control system thing that they're trying to maintain. But most of them, after their death, most saints aren't sanctified in their lifetime. It's usually centuries later. When the church is like, well, I guess we got I guess we got to accept that was a saint. They did do some kind of saintly stuff, didn't they? But so, anyways, where was that? Anyways, upward trajectory, heat death of the universe. Entropy is the idea that all systems slowly lose energy. So anyways, it's leaked. It's not. It's transferred. It's transferred to it. There's no destruction of energy, but the system just slows down, and eventually that's, supposedly the universe is going to wind down eventually someday. So I do think that's true. I think that you can get so far away from this graph if you don't align your inner being with the ascension of the universe. You will eventually get far enough away that you will not exist. You will no longer exist. Now, I don't want to say you no longer exist, but you won't exist again until the universe ends, basically. So when the next universe comes, you might exist again, or you probably will. you can think, whatever you want to think. This is my view of the universe. So you think about what you want to think. I'm just providing what I think. So I think that the amount of beings that no longer exist because they separated too far from the ascension of the universe, I think there's a golden ratio dun, 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 of the amount of beings that don't. So I think that there's a certain necessary amount of evil that is necessary to keep this upward. So these beings, higher frequency, more energy, these beings no longer have energy. So these beings will eventually hit the infinity. And what happens when you hit infinity? You also hit zero. It's another logical. Our brains are logical. Okay, so actually I should talk about that too. So we have two brains, and left brain, right brain. And we all do. We don't think of ourselves like that because that's not just that's the society we live in. But we're very left brain society. We think logically. Science is our religion right now. So right brain is creativity, and so integrating two halves of the brain. The left half, the scientific, or not scientific, I guess scientific, I don't know, logical. So logic is dependent on space and time to exist. Logic is a set of, it's space and time dependent. So your left brain is very logical, it's very focused, it has to be focused on time. And that is where evolution, came in. Because it's hard to develop an idea of oneness with the universe if you're getting killed by a giant panther like this one. But if you survive the panther because part of your brain was in the present moment, logically predicting what's going to happen next, then your brain might get to explore this other stuff. So integrating the two halves of your brain is, I think it's talked about a lot in neuroscience nowadays. I just read a book called The Master and His Emissary, which went into kind of the history of when the left braininess of society kind of took over. It's a lot of conjecture, but it's a really good book. It was really interesting. But the right brain is more of a zoomed out version. So we got the zoomed in version, left brain, right brain zoomed out. So the right brain sees a bigger picture. Left brain sees the small picture, day-to-day activities. So combining those two makes you a super genius, basically. If you can get them to work together, you're firing on all cylinders at that point. And it's a balance. Everything in the universe is a balance. You need both, though. And if you are in this society, it's very hard to get that right brain. We're such a left brain society. It's go, 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 go. Don't sit around and think. And we're all separate beings, and we, which is not, it's just if you think about it, it's not true. But I'm sure I'll make this is already 20 minutes long, so I'm sure I'll make more videos, because we're barely just scratching the surface here. so that's kind of my view of the trajectory, the upward trajectory of the universe, just very basic scratching the surface, and the golden ratio, which is, I didn't mention, that is in these fractals. So that's we can see it in nature, like seashells and flowers. It's everywhere. It's this golden ratio, and it's just the microcosm macrocosm thing. And so that's what I think that this ratio is, or it's related. It's somehow there's some kind of equation that you plug that golden ratio, and it will give you this trajectory of the universe. It doesn't logically it still doesn't answer the question, well, if God is all powerful, why doesn't he just, he can do anything. Why is there evil? It still doesn't make sense. So that's kind of a thing you'll have to work on your own, but I hope this kind of got you started on what I'm working with here. So I got a couple of more things I want to get into, like just a few other things. I guess I want to mention quick, because this is important, I think, for a lot of people who are struggling to find a path, like I was, or, I wanted to know, I wanted to know what the fuck, So, I think that there's some there are some good paths. You can find your own path, but like I did, which is the path of, I guess there's actually names for some of these, like the path of knowledge, which is the more you learn about the universe, it's just beautiful. It's beautiful. And but there's mysticism, there's magic, and like kind of new age manifestation. Sorry, I just very emotional about it. When I think about it, the beauty of the fucking universe is insane. But mysticism is the path I'm leaning towards now. But I kind of got there through manifestation, which is manifestation is a good balance, I think, and especially for a lot of people. But it's really, really, I did. The reason I wanted to mention this is because I think a lot of people use manifestation wrong, or they don't think it works, or whatever. It works. It works. It 100% works. You can, if you do it right, if you learn how to do it from someone who's a good teacher, it definitely works. But do you really know what's going to make you happy? Do you? I don't. Oh, you can manifest what you think will make you happy, and when it shows up on your doorstep, it could be the worst thing that's ever happened to you. And that's just the way it is. We don't know what's really going to make us happy. We think we do. We all think we do. I think being rich and having, the most gorgeous whatever partner or whatever is going to make us the happiest person. You might be wrong. You might have a mission. So, I'll leave it at that. If you have a mission and you're not doing the mission, you won't be happy.